Konrad Stargrad, a time-traveling engineer from the future, finds himself stranded in 13th century Poland. He uses his advanced knowledge to introduce innovations to agriculture, manufacturing, and warfare, aiming to modernize the country. He becomes entangled in local politics and social structures, navigating relationships with nobles, peasants, and religious figures. Konrad's efforts to implement his ideas face resistance and challenges, as he persists in his goals of preparing Poland for the impending Mongol invasion. His story explores themes of cultural exchange, technological adaptation, and the impact of single individuals on the course of history. Amidst these grand schemes, he also grapples with personal relationships and the challenges of adapting a vastly different way of life.
My name is Sir Vladimir Charnecki. I am a good Polish knight and a true son of the Holy Catholic Church. I was born in 1212, the third son of Baron Jan of Charnet. In my 20th year, I met a most extraordinary nobleman, and I think it fitting to write about him. His name is Sir Konrad Stargard, and I met him in the following manner. In the fall of 1231, word came from my father's liege lord, Count Lambert, that we should send a knight to Lambert's castle town to attend there on Easter and for the 3 months thereafter. We entered the bailey, where a vast tower was under construction. What on earth is that thing? A device of Sir Konrad's planning. They say it will suck power from the winds and force it to do man's work. That smacks of witchcraft. Sir Konrad claims not, though by all accounts he's as much warlock as warrior and a giant besides. Sir Konrad, is he the man that killed the brigand, Sir Reinberg? Reinberg and his entire band, and each killed with a single blow of the sword. Unbelievable, I said. But true. That German bastard's arms are in the storeroom here without a mark on them. Sir Konrad caught him straight through the eye-slit and cut his skull in half without harming the helmet. Some might call that luck, not when he killed all the others besides. I tell you, he brought in 4 suits of armor, and all of them intact, save for bloodstains. What manner of man is he? I haven't met him yet myself, having arrived only a day before you. They say he's in Cieszyn and will return in a week or 2. I must watch the gate until Sext, but you go up to the castle. The ladies will see to your comfort. Indeed, I asked. Is Lambert's board and bed all they say it is? Better. He has 8 of them now, and there are only 5 of us knights to keep them pleasured. The poor things, I grinned. Well, we can only do our best. No one met me at the castle door, but a remarkable noise was coming from within. It sounded like a dozen mad drummers going at once, or like carpenters trying to be musicians. I followed the sound to the great hall and found there an incomprehensible flurry of activity. There was a great table around which sat a half-dozen pretty wenches. Each had a cartwheel in front of her that seemed to spin of its own accord. There were big balls of wool and complicated arrangements of thread and spools spinning with astounding speed. Unconsciously, I made the sign of the cross.
The High-Tech Knight by Leo Frankowski was published in 1989 and is a great book for fans of the idea that, if you were to go back in time, could you create things with the causality be damned attitude with no worries about how it will affect the future? Konrad is only trying to save his butt from being wiped out by the Mongol hordes that are due to arrive in less than 10 years. This book will not only appeal to those people, but to fans of construction, engineering, and chemistry, along with a smattering of metallurgy and other archaic endeavors. So, if you haven't already picked up the first book in the Chronicles of Konrad Stargrad, Crosstime Engineer, then do that and pick up the rest of the series too. Now let's see what the guys from the Deep Dive crew have to say about the second book in the series, The High-Tech Knight. Buckle up.
Buckle up, folks, because today we're diving into High-Tech Knight. It's the second book in this series that throws a 20th century engineer right into the 13th century. We're keeping this deep dive spoiler-free, but trust me, I want to grab both Cross-Time Engineer, the first book, and High-Tech Knight after this.
What's so fascinating about this is that it's not your typical fish out of water story, you know.
Yeah.
Konrad, our engineer, isn't just surviving, he's thriving.
Yeah, he's using his skill.
Using his unique skill set.
So, rewind a bit.
Okay.
At the end of that first book, Konrad is stranded in 13th century Poland.
Yeah.
No iPhone.
Yep.
No internet. We're having a decent cup of coffee.
Oh, that's rough.
I know, right? But instead of panicking,
Right.
He starts applying his engineering mind to this medieval world.
And that's the hook, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just wacky inventions in a historical setting.
Yeah.
Conrad's background as an engineer allows him to approach problems in a really different way. He breaks down these complex challenges into smaller steps.
Right.
Which is a way of thinking that's pretty foreign to the people around him at the time.
Absolutely. And it's like he's constantly reverse engineering these solutions with very limited resources.
Yeah.
One example that I thought was really interesting is when he tries to explain the concept of germ theory.
Oh, wow.
Imagine trying to do that when no one has seen a microscope.
Exactly. The book doesn't just skip over this.
Yeah.
We get to see how Conrad thinks.
Right.
He uses analogies that would make sense to people back then.
Uh-huh.
Like he compares the human body to a castle that's under siege,
Interesting.
with germs being the invaders.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a clever way to bridge the gap between, what he knows and what they understand.
It makes me wonder, could someone without that engineering mindset have survived in this situation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this book so interesting.
Right.
It's not just a fun adventure.
Yeah.
It really shows how powerful human ingenuity and problem solving can be.
And we can't forget about all the social and political hurdles that he has to jump over.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking feudalism, religious customs.
Mm-hmm.
There's even a scene where he tries to explain socialism.
What?
Yeah, to a drunken poet.
Oh, my God.
Socialism being this idea that resources are shared.
Yeah.
Talk about a culture clash.
It's a huge culture clash, but these clashes are really what make the story so interesting to read.
For sure.
We see Conrad navigate all of these things, not always gracefully,
Yeah.
but always with this determination to make things work.
It's like he's a one-man cultural exchange program,
I love that.
but an accidental one.
Yeah,
But it's not all just talking and explaining.
right.
There's a lot of action too.
There is,
Right.
absolutely. Conrad gets caught up in bandit raids.
Uh-huh.
He has to defend his employer,
Oh, wow.
and he even ends up facing trial by combat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the author really brings to life the dangers of that time period, reminding us that this isn't just some, lighthearted
Right.
romp through history.
Yeah. And through all of that, we see him grappling with some pretty big questions.
Like what?
He's changing history.
Yeah,
He's introducing technology that's way ahead of its time.
right.
Is he playing God?
That's a good question.
Is he doing more harm than good?
That's fascinating.
Those questions are really interesting.
Yeah, and that internal struggle
Yeah.
is what makes him such a well-rounded character.
I agree.
He's not a superhero,
Right.
He's a man who is wrestling with the consequences of his action,
Right.
trying to find a balance between what he knows and the world that he is now in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And this is where I think supporting characters really come into play.
Yeah,
They're not just there.
yeah,
They're not just background noise.
yeah.
They challenge him, they help him, and they really make him question his own assumptions.
One of the most interesting relationships is with Sir Vladimir,
Oh, yeah.
this young knight who's tasked with keeping an eye on Conrad.
Yeah.
It's almost like a medieval buddy cop situation. I love that. But with more,
Right.
mentorship and cultural exchange.
Yeah, I really enjoyed their dynamic.
Yeah,
At first, they're clashing Conrad with his modern views.
yeah,
Vladimir, very traditional.
yeah.
But it evolves into this mutual respect
Right.
as they start to learn from each other.
What's fascinating is their bond is forged not just through their adventures,
Right.
but also through these intellectual sparring matches.
Yeah.
Conrad's trying to explain science. Vladimir, even though he's skeptical at first,
Yeah.
he starts to question everything he thought he knew about the world.
And there's some really funny moments too.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like when Conrad accidentally invents super strong moonshine.
Oh yeah.
Much to Vladimir's initial horror and then his eventual delight.
Of course.
Of course.
So this inventive side of Conrad
Yeah.
extends to how he interacts with animals.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
There's this scene where he teaches basic math to a horse.
That's right.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what are the limits of animal intelligence?
How much are we underestimating what they can do?
Exactly. And it's not all, fantastical elements.
Yeah.
The book also shows daily life in the 13th century.
Right.
We see Conrad dealing with things that we take for granted, sanitation,
Right.
or even just, measuring fabric.
Yeah.
It reminds you how much things have changed.
And those little details bring the historical setting to life.
Yeah.
You can almost smell the wood smoke and hear the blacksmith working.
Yeah, you're right there.
But Conrad's not just adapting, he'll bringing change. He introduces these technologies like the spinning wheel,
Oh, wow.
which starts to like revolutionize their textile industry.
So we're seeing these ripple effects.
Right.
One person's knowledge
Yeah.
having a huge impact on everyone.
It makes you wonder, how much can one person really change the course of history?
That's a great question. And
It's not always easy.
no,
There's pushback from people who are scared of change.
yeah, those were threatened by him.
Yeah, they see him as a threat.
And it creates this tension between progress and tradition.
It's so relevant even today.
Sure.
Absolutely. And the author doesn't shy away from that.
No.
We see Conrad navigating the politics of this medieval world,
Yeah.
making friends, outsmarting his enemy.
Then facing down those who threaten him physically.
Right, and through it all,
Yeah.
there's this underlying threat.
The Mongols.
The Mongols, yeah, it's like this reminder of what's at stake. He isn't just messing around with inventions.
No.
He's shaping the destiny of a whole region.
It adds this urgency to everything he's doing.
Yeah.
All this stuff matters.
As we see him facing these challenges,
Right.
we see him grow.
Yeah.
He starts as kind of a know-it-all engineer,
Right.
but he becomes more humble, more aware of how complicated things are.
And his relationship with Sir Vladimir is a big part of that.
I agree.
It shows how we learn and grow
Yeah.
through connection and talking with people who are different from us.
And of course, we can't forget the romance.
Ooh, tell me about it.
Conrad is drawn to this strong, independent woman
Nice.
who challenges him intellectually and emotionally.
I won't ask for spoilers.
I won't spoil who it is, but
Okay.
it adds another layer to everything.
It shows that even with all the chaos and challenges,
Yeah.
human connection is still important.
It is.
And that's something we can all relate to no matter what time period we're in.
You know, it's like we're seeing history with fresh eyes.
I know you mean
People back then weren't that different from us.
Yeah.
They had their own hopes and dreams.
fears and ambitions.
And a high-tech knight captures that so well.
It really makes you think and empathize with these characters, even though they lived so long ago.
And in the climax of these excerpts, we see Conrad facing a trial by combat.
Ooh.
This isn't just any duel, though.
Right? It's for his life.
Yeah, it's a test of everything he's learned.
It's a real page turner.
Oh yeah, makes you hold your breath.
Totally.
You know, you realize, even with all of his skills and smarts,
Yeah.
Conrad's still vulnerable.
He is.
He's just a man up against a brutal world.
That part really got to me.
Me too, it made me wonder,
Yeah.
what would I do if I was in his shoes?
Right. Could you survive?
Would I be brave enough? Would I have the skill?
It's the kind of question that stays with you.
It does, in that sense of wonder
Yeah.
and possibility.
Yeah.
That's what makes these books so great.
So if you're looking for a book that mixes history and adventure
And a little sci-fi.
and a little sci-fi, this is it.
For sure.
It's about human ingenuity, the clash of cultures,
And the power of the human spirit.
to adapt and survive and overcome anything.
High-Tech Knight is a fun ride through history
It is.
with a character you really root for.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read the first book, Cross-Time Engineer,
You got to start there.
I highly recommend starting there. You will not regret it.
It's a series that reminds us that the past isn't really gone. History's full of surprises.
And sometimes it just takes one person to change everything.
Well, that was our deep dive into High-Tech Knight.
Want to learn more about classic fantasy and sci-fi books? Subscribe and join us next time. Till then.